Party people, can yo get funky? Suicide force, can yo get funky? The Zulu Nation, can yo get funky? Yeah, just hit me. Just taste the funk and hit me.
Welcome to the Bronx Hip Hop Oral History Project. Today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025. I am Pastor Crespo Jr., the research librarian and archivist for the Bronx County Historical Society. From Florida, via Zoom, we are joined by Julio Santiago, also known as Boogie Down Klown, a pioneering street dancer, Boogie Boy, locker, and actor. Welcome, Clown.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
Got it. Appreciate.
We're finally doing this.
Finally, it's been a while that we've been talking, and again, thank you so much. So I know you're coming off of a shift from work,
Yes.
So we'll get through this interview, and yeah, let's do this.
Good, man.
Awesome.
Wait, I'm here.
Cool. We like to begin all of our interviews by asking you to please share a little bit and talk about your family history and background. Where do each of your parents come from?
Mom and Pop are from Puerto Rico. Mom from Mayagüez and father from Ponce. And then they moved to New York City.
Got it. You said mom is from Mayagüez.
Yes.
Yeah. Did she ever tell you any stories about Mayagüez? How they're always, I remember, everybody went to school barefoot, right?
Right. No, I didn't get many stories from her about her experience in Puerto Rico because she came to New York as a younger girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. How are you? So
she was the one that brought us up. My father wasn't really much in our lives. I probably met him a handful of times.
All right. Do you know anything about Ponce and your father's parents? Were family there?
No, not much. But I do know that he had a lot of kids. I can tell you that.
Okay.
I found that out within the last 5 to 7 years that I had a bunch of brothers and sisters, half brothers and sisters.
Got it.
And I'm talking probably around 20 something.
All right.
He was out there.
Are you the oldest sibling from?
No, actually, I was the youngest out of his kids with my mom.
Okay, so who were your siblings with your mom and dad?
Milton, Alex, Felix, and myself, and I was the youngest.
Got it. Were you? Did they meet in Puerto Rico or here in the U.S.? You said she came to the U.S. as a young girl.
That I do not know much about.
All
and
right.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't really much. I got into my mother's life when I was a preteen because she had lost a kid. I'm Julio number 2.
Okay.
She had lost a kid that ate some pills that he thought it was candy. She lost a child and she named me Julio. But because of that incident, I couldn't live with her. I was living in foster care, group homes, that type of thing.
Got it.
So I didn't get into her life until I was about, I would say about 11, 12 years old.
Okay. All right.
And mainly what she taught me about or spoke to me about was what was happening at the time in New York City, especially the Bronx. We were living in the Bronx, and at that time it was a war zone. So her priority was to keep us alive and keep us out of jail and feed us and that type of thing. It was not, she didn't really get to sit down and say, okay, this is our family, this is our history, this is where we come from. We didn't really get much into that. My older brothers know a little bit, and I do have a half brother that knows a lot of things. And I met him for the first time Thanksgiving, this last Thanksgiving 2024, and I'm getting some information out of him about my father, and he knows about my mom and my older brothers. He knows a lot of stuff. So we're gonna be getting together some more, and I can get some more information from him.
All right.
About family history.
Great. Are you able to talk about, up to your age 12? You said you were in group homes. Was it in the Bronx and Brooklyn? You don't have to talk about anything else.
Yeah, I was in the Bronx. I was in the Bronx pretty much all my life. I was born in Manhattan, but I was
What year?
68 down on the Old East Side, a hospital called Beth Israel.
We were born
So,
in the same hospital, Papa.
oh, nice. All right. So, yeah, and then I wind up staying with I stayed with an aunt, one of my mom's sisters, an aunt that lived in Queens. So I know that as a child, I was with her for a while. She showed me some pictures, and I kind of vaguely remember. And she showed me pictures of me when I was 7, 8 years old, which are very rare. I don't have any pictures. She has those. So I stayed with her for a while, but then things got a little. She had more kids, and things got expensive. So I was put into foster care. She put me in foster care and group home in that system, and I stayed in there until about at least 10, 11 years old. 11, a few years.
Sure, sure. And when you got out of foster care, what was your living situation then?
I went with my mom, and it was I was shocked because I'm coming from Queens, where Queens is all houses.
Right, right.
Where we were at, there were all houses. Ozone Parkway, around those areas. So a lot of houses. And then when I went to a group home, it was in the Bronx, but it was uptown on 243rd Street or White Plains Road. And that was really nice at the time. It was nice. It was all houses. So when I came to my mom, she came and got me and said, "All right, we're going home. It's time for you to come home. I'm ready."
Right.
It was a building, a 5-story building. We're driving through areas where whole neighborhoods are burnt down. Look like the Gaza Strip.
Right, right.
At the time. So it was like a shocker to me. Like, wow, I'm moving to this. I'm going to live in this.
Right.
I wasn't ready for it.
That's like 79, 80 time frame then.
Around 80s, yeah. 1980s, I think around 79, 80. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, 'cause I started dancing in 1980.
Okay.
Yeah, I started dancing, and I know that for sure. It was in 1980.
You seem to have good memories, correct me if I'm wrong, with that last group home, on 243rd Street. You want to share any good memories, if that?
Yeah, I had a couple of good friends that lived in the neighborhood, some of my best friends, and I relocated them on Facebook a couple of years ago, which was really cool. And one of them just passed away last year, so that was, but they were my buddies. There's James Woods, Werner Matthew, Richard Carroll. Those were kids around my age that lived in the neighborhood. And we used to run around the neighborhood and have a good time, go to their house, backyard barbecues, that type of thing. And they would come. We had about 19 to 20 people that lived in the group home themselves. So they would have barbecues, and they would come to our group home, to our backyard, and hang out, have some hot dogs with us. I remember James loved hot dogs. Like, even as we got older and we started, just going to visit each other, and I was getting into my popping. I was starting to create a name for myself in popping. We would go to Skate Key, that was on Allerton Avenue,
Right.
And then we would go to downtown to 72nd Street to Gray's Papaya. We'll take the train all the way downtown to Gray's Papaya and go get hot dogs, and yeah, that was a pretty big thing for us. You know what I mean?
Cool. How long were you in that last group home?
I would say about 3 or 4 years. It wasn't really long, but it seemed like long because
Yeah, so we're talking
and
about 76 to 80, 76.
Yeah. It was in the 70s. We're talking about probably 74, 75 or something like that. It was early in my age. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old or something like that. And I stayed there till I was at least 11, maybe 12.
Right.
Yeah, I can't really recall the actual, but yeah, a few years. And me and another kid in the group home named David, we were the two youngest there. And I remember at the time that my mother wasn't able to, because of the incident that happened with her son, that she couldn't come see me. You know what I mean? So I never really had visitors. My brothers were also in a group home. They were a little older, right up the block from me. But I mean, too far for me to walk to go see them. They would have to come down to see me.
Wow. Oh, gotcha.
And they were older too. They were taken too because of the incident. And they were up the block at another group home up there. And so once in a while, I'd take a walk up there with one of the counselors because they knew that my brothers were up there. So I'd go up there to see my brothers, or they'll come down, see me, that type of thing. And since me and David were the youngest, they took care of us, and we didn't get as many visitors, right? So,
Right.
you know, Christmas, we got the most toys, you know. We got treated. They took care of us over there. We were taken care of.
Good.
As the youngest there, yeah.
That's an awesome story, man. You know, much appreciated. You know, a lot of kids today, even back then, had to
Yeah,
go.
because a lot of those places is horror stories, you know, with kids coming out of foster care and group homes. But the one I was at, yeah, we were taken care of. We did it. They took us out to the country, and
Do you remember the name of it? I mean, it's all
yeah,
positive, so let's throw it out.
The name of the it was Catholic Guardian Society. It was a Catholic thing.
Got it.
Yeah. So the place is the house is still there, but it's no longer a group home.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about elementary school. I mean, it was kind of, you had a significant chunk of elementary school before you hit middle school up in that group home.
Yes.
What school did you go to?
We went to PS16, and James was in it. I remember James Woods, me and him, we had an experience. My first ever racist experience was in that schoolyard as a kid. When I was with James, it was me and James. James is black. I'm Spanish. We're on the swings, and a group of just white dudes. One of them was really big, really fat. I mean, I'm heavy now, so, but at that time I was like, oh my God. And they were like, well, you can't be in the park. You got to leave here. And we were like, oh, okay. We didn't know, and they said, yeah, we don't allow niggas and spics here.
Wow.
So you got to go. And James didn't even ask any questions because he knew what time it was. He was just a little bit, about a year older than me, but he knew what he was encountering. So he was already steps ahead of me leaving. And I just followed behind him and I left.
Yeah, I was probably too much. You don't remember the ethnic groups, what they were?
I believe they were mixed. I think they seemed more Irish. And maybe one or two Italians. They're probably about four or five of them. We're two kids. These guys were like teenagers.
Right.
They look like men. We were two little kids.
Right. Yeah.
So that was my first time ever even hearing the word nigger, even hearing the word spick.
Right.
My first time even hearing it, I just didn't even know what the hell that was. I had to ask James, what the hell does that mean? And he was like, that's what they call Spanish people spicks. They call black people niggers.
Wow.
And I'm saying the word because I'm just trying to let you know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not trying to, filter anything. I'm just letting you know how it really went,
Yeah. Wow. That's a shame. Any did you have any mentors at PS16? Any teachers or any adults? Or any older kids that kind of really left an impression on you?
No, not in that school. I had a teacher that I liked. Her name was Miss Maynard. I remember her name. She was she looked like she was mixed with black and Indian. She had long hair, nice looking boobs. And I always wanted to get some help from her and to get her attention because I kind of had a crush on her. And I think she knew it, but, she obviously couldn't do anything with me because I was a kid, but she used that to her advantage to teach me.
Got it.
To her advantage to teach me, yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah. And now you left. Did you happen, before you left that home, did you enter middle school?
Yes. I went to, that was elementary school, PS16. Middle school was if I remember correctly, actually, I graduated from PS 16 as, kid graduation.
Right.
And I went to, I forgot the name of that school because I was only there for a little bit. And then and then that's when I went, and it was on Van Cortlandt Parkway.
Got it.
It might have been 107 or 105, PS 105 or something 105 or 107, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Now and now from the group home, you're reunited with your mother.
Yeah, she came in and she just got me. She just said, "Let's go. We're going. We're leaving." I believe she had to go through the court system or whatever, but I guess she just decided, the hell with it.
Right.
You got to put me in jail. I'm going to get my, because she had already a year prior had taken my brothers. My brothers were already gone. A year or two prior, they were gone. You know what I mean? So I was the only one left that she said, "All right, I'm coming to get you." And I remember grabbing a plastic bag, getting all my stuff out of the drawer. And I went, I was happy. I was, my mother came to get me, you know what I mean? I liked the group home. I liked the way they took care of me, but I was happy to be able to leave with my mother and live with my mother and my brothers and all that, my siblings. So at that moment, I was like, yeah, we're leaving. I'm down. Let's go, And I remember walking up the block, walk up the hill, because you had to walk up a hill and then walk down White Plains Road to get on the train. Then I think it was the number 2 train, the last stop, 241st Street. And I remember as I was walking, Werner's family, which is another, like I said, I had about 2 or 3 best friends. We were all buddies. His family was right across the street from the group home. And that's where I used to hang out at all the time. They were clapping and cheering that I was leaving. Not that they didn't want me around, but they were happy to see me going back with my family and not being in a group home. Wow. You know what I mean? They were happy to see me to do that. So they were cheering, yeah, good, yes. That type of thing. And I was like, oh, cool. And I used to come back, and visit them every now and then as I got a little bit older, because they were there for a while. They stayed. So I'd come back and see them, say hi, and that type of thing.
Wow, that's awesome. So what neighborhood did you go to from there?
The first building we moved in was on Morris Avenue on Mount Eden Avenue, between Mount Eden and I guess it was between Mount Eden and then there was another street over. You know where Bronx Lebanon Hospital is?
No, not familiar.
With Bronx Lebanon Hospital. Well, we were the building behind Bronx Lebanon Hospital.
Right.
Yeah, we were there. So Mount Eden and then Bronx Lebanon Hospital was there's a building right behind it. So you know where Claremont Park? You ever heard of that park?
Yeah.
Claremont Park. We were right across the street from Claremont Park.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I forgot a question, and for me, it's an important question.
Okay.
Back in elementary school, what kid games? You had a bunch of best friends. You had a great few years at that group home. What kid games did you play in the neighborhood?
We like playing, call it Roundup or Ringalivia. They call it, right? So everybody hides. One person is it. And because it was a cool neighborhood. It was all houses. People had backyards. There was one area that there was a big empty lot there, and it was like a field and some brush in that area. And then there was a big tree. I used to hide up on the tree. I used to be able to climb the tree, this big pine tree on the side of the group home. It was on our property. And I used to be able to climb up to that tree to the top and watch everybody get caught. Nobody would see me. I could see everybody. I could look down and see people getting caught. When I saw enough people get caught, then I would come down, because now, I wasn't the first to get caught. 'Cause if you were the first to get caught, then you got to start the next game and you got to round people up and create a team. Because every person you catch, they join, and then the next person joins, and then they all go around until they get everybody. So I remember we played that a lot. That was cool, because we would jump in people's backyards or on roofs of people's houses. Neighbors would be yelling at us, "Get out of here! I would let my dog go!" And we were on the edge. We were on the edge of Yonkers and Mount Vernon.
Right.
So they were, we had rules. You can't hide in Mount Vernon, or you can't hide in Yonkers. You got to stay in the Bronx. So we were just like right on the border of two other little cities.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
And, all right. So now we're going back to your neighborhood, Mount Eden, right?
Yeah. Near Mount Eden Avenue. Yeah. 172nd Street, I believe. I think it was 172nd Street. So I believe I was Mount Eden and 172nd, between 172nd and 173rd, right along Mount Eden, right in that area.
Yeah. At a great age, 12, and
yeah, I was a kid. I was a little youngster, man. But I wasn't ready for that. I figured within a couple of months of being there, I saw a person being pulled out in a stretcher out of some back alley across the street from me. I seen a person, somebody robbing somebody for their bike and running into Claremont Park with the bike, taking it. So I'd never seen that ever.
Right.
Coming from, the neighborhood I was in, now I'm seeing crimes right before my eyes, and and the neighborhoods are looking tough.
Describe.
I mean, that area that I was at near Bronx Lebanon Hospital, Mount Eden, wasn't where there was abandoned buildings for blocks. It wasn't like that. But if we took a cab somewhere, or we took a train somewhere, we can see those neighborhoods 5-10 minute train ride or a cab ride in the Bronx. Like, wow, these neighborhoods are down. They're gone.
Right.
They've been, all the buildings are burnt down, and just like what Melly Mel said, broken glass everywhere. People, that was real. That story.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't. That was a great, Melly Mel rap. Describe your neighborhood more. What was it made up of? The communities, who was there? Who were you living in and around?
On Mount Eden, around that area?
Yes, sir.
A lot of Latinos, a lot more Latinos, because when I'm coming from White Plains, it was just mainly a lot of white people, but you also had your James Woods, one of my best friends, he's black. Warner Matthews, they were multiracial. Mom was black, but and father was white. So there were some black people in the community and Spanish people in the community that I was in, but not just very, very little, just very little.
Right.
A lot more Italian, a lot more Irish, a lot more, So when I got to that part of the Bronx, everybody was Latino, especially that area. Everybody was Latino, a few black people, and that was different for me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is different. Food was a hell of a lot better.
Talk to us about the food in the community.
The rice and beans. We tasted rice and beans before because one of David that lived in the group home, his mom came one time to the group home and cooked for the whole group home, and she cooked Spanish food, and we was like, "What is this? This is so good. What is this?" And then coming with my mother home, and she's cooking it, and I'm like, wow. And I remember first time she didn't feel like cooking, and she ordered Chinese food, and I had, I think it was pork fried rice, and I was like, best thing on the planet. I didn't know. I was like, wow, what is this? I didn't get that at the group home,
Right. Yeah. So what were the meals like at the group home since you're there? I mean, I'm sure it was great,
Yeah, I mean, it was all good stuff, but you didn't realize it was not good until you went.
Right.
If you got good stuff, then they were like, well, their food was a little But yeah, no, you had some good meals,
What was your favorite meal that your mother would put together?
You know what? The favorite meals were the ones that I call the poor folk meals.
Right.
The can of corned beef, and you turn it into like a little stew with potato in it and corn in it and olive in it and all that stuff,
Absolutely.
On white rice. Or sometimes just mashed potato with corn and slices of Spam on the side. Really simple stuff.
Right.
But it was good. It was good, and it was because she had a bunch of kids that she had to feed, and she turned water into wine. She made it happen. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
those meals was really special to me, and they had great taste. Not healthy, but they had great taste.
Yeah.
Of course, when she was able to make arroz con gandula and pernil, all that other good stuff, you know, yeah, I was with that, or carne guisado, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
Yeah, that's the good stuff, steak with onions, you know, and she did that as well, and really, really good. She cooked really good. She did during the holidays. She used to make arroz con dulce,
Yes.
and she did it well. She did it well. She in the building that we lived in, it was one of the buildings. When we moved from the first building I ever moved to, when I out of the group homes, we was living in another building on the first floor, and she would cook that during the holidays, and the entire building would smell like cinnamon and nutmeg, and everybody in the building knew that my mother was cooking that rice pudding, and that they were going to get their plates, because she would make these little plates, and that was her gift to the people in the building, because she couldn't afford to buy gifts. So she'll cook rice pudding and give everybody for the holidays rice pudding. And that was like my favorite. And the only person that's doing that now is her sister here in Florida. She gave her the ingredients and her recipe, and every holiday my aunt says, "Come pick up your rice pudding." You know what I mean? So I still get my mother's rice pudding during the holidays through my aunt. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Did you guys have family, other cousins in the area near where you lived with your mom?
You know what? We were pretty much the only. I found out there was an aunt in Co-op City, but not until way later. Like I was a grown man then.
Right, right.
I did have an aunt in Washington Heights. In Washington Heights, and I stayed with her for a little bit after my mom passed away, because my mom and her were beefing. They had, that sister rivalry stuff. They went on. But as she got older and she knew that she was going to pass away. She made amends, and she wanted me to have somebody there if I needed, while I was in New York City, because all of her other sisters are here in Florida.
Right.
So while I was in New York City when she passed away, I went and I stayed with her for a little bit, rented a room from her in Washington Heights. She loved me there because she was by herself. So me being there, help her out and do things for her, go to the store or whatever. We were helping each other out. Yeah.
How old were you when you stayed with your aunt?
Oh, this was probably within the last 20 years. So I figure 30 something years old. Yeah.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Great. So man, so back at your home with your mom, you got your siblings with you, families united, what was it like at home playing with your brothers? Did they influence you in any way musically?
My brother Alex, he was gay.
Okay.
And he was a dancer. He was a really good dancer. Like he did the hustle. He was popular, not famous, not well known, but popular for doing the hustle.
Yeah.
At that time, the hustle was a big dance, and so he would have his gay friends come inside in the house, and they'll go over their routines. And not only just gay friends, he has some hot ass chicks, that'll come and dance with him too, especially the ones that really knew how to. He really loved the girls that danced with him that knew how to follow, so he didn't have to force them to make a certain turn. He just have to just twitch his hand this way, twitch his that, and they knew which direction to go in the hustle. He liked that. He didn't like the struggle. He was real smooth with his dancing. He didn't want to fight for it. So I used to see that all the time. And music, you know what I mean? And hear the music. So that was him. He really influenced me a lot, and wanted and his friends to want to, pick up dancing.
What kind of music was he listening to in 1980?
This was freestyle was big, a lot of freestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
We were into it really big. Yeah.
Awesome.
My other brother Milton, he was more of like they call us B-boys these days, and I don't know where that came from. That's a new terminology for breakers.
Right,
Since when breaking came back in the 90s, that we're B-boys. When we originally, B-boy was a bad motherfucker from the Bronx.
right.
He wasn't a B-boy, was a gangster, you know. So I remember when I had a shirt on that said B-boy clown, and my brother was like, B-boy clown? You ain't no fucking B-boy. You're a dancer. You ain't no gangster. He said, leave that work up to me. You know, you're not a B-boy. And I was like, no, that's what they call breakers. That's what they said the name is, B-boy. And so, yeah, I had Milton. Milton was a wild one. He was a wild one. He was the one that if we had a problem, you know, he'd go get his boys, and he'd be the first one to do whatever has to be done. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
He's the one you didn't tell if you had beef, because you know.
Well, yeah, I didn't tell because I didn't want no problems really like that. But there were times. There was a time when I was at 22 junior high school where this dude they robbed me for my jacket. You know, the dude said, "Hey, you want your jacket? You got to fight for it." You know, and I did. I said, "All right, I'll fight." And I fought, and I said, "Can I get my jacket back now?" And he was like, "Nah, you ain't getting it." So went back home. This is, you know, it's cold, and he noticed I didn't have my jacket. Where's the jacket? Dude took it from me after school, and he wasn't even from that school. He was an older guy, and my brother Felix, he was there at the time too. Now my brother Felix has a different father, but he grew up with us. You know, he was in the group home. He grew up with all of us. So he lived down on the Lower East Side, and he was a little wild. He had his wild side too, but he wasn't the quick McGraw. He was the thinker, right? He was a thinker. He was heavy into, you know, he was in the drug game down on the Lower East Side. He was the thinker. He was the businessman. So him and my brother Milton and me, they said, let's go back over there. They should still be back over there. And lo and behold, when we got there, the guy was there wearing my fucking jacket. So my brother Milton, he automatically just pulled up on the guy, pulled out a knife, and my brother Felix said, yo, no, we ain't doing this. That's not how this is going down. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for that, he would have probably got stabbed up. So he said, no, Julio's going to fight. We're going to make him fight this dude. And he's going to get his jacket back. We're going to teach him now. So they made me fight the dude. I fought the dude, and then dude gave me the jacket back. And that was the way I got it. That was one of my first fights in the hood, and I had to fight for my jacket. He wanted me to be able to stick up for myself and deal with stuff and not have to go get them all the time if something happened, you know?
Right. You know,
and I got respect from the guy. I mean, after that, I never had any problems. Probably one because my older brother stopped my other brother from hospitalizing him or possibly killing him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And he said, "Hey, just fight him." Yeah, and that's what we did. I fought, and I got the jacket back. I'm not going to say I won. I'm not going to say I lost. We just had a fight.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. Were there, you know, it's 1980. Did you, and I know you probably didn't see gangs, you know, up, you know, in the group home area, but how visible in 1980 were gangs? Talk to me. Yeah.
They were out there. They were out there.
Were they? Tell me.
Oh, yeah. They were out there. Mount Eden Avenue was the headquarters for Savage Nomads.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the headquarters were. But, you know, I never messed around with that. My older brothers, they were kid gang members. I know that one of them said he was a baby skull from the Savage Skulls, right? One of them was a baby skull. So they were younger.
Right.
And then they were just, as I started getting into the dance, and I started getting a little bit older and going from jam to jam, I started meeting, you know, Zulu people, and at the time we would rock beads. The gangs or the crews, whatever you want to call them, would rock beads, different color beads, and that you're representing whoever you're down with.
I remember.
So I see a lot of that stuff happening, but that was definitely not around 240, not around there.
Right.
It was when I moved into the neighborhood and I started getting deeper into the dancing and going from jam to jam.
Got it. All right, so let's talk about the dancing, and we're not going to confine it to, certain areas, but when was the first time you saw anyone, the early outside of the Latin hustle and the hustle, like rocking or freestyle burning? When was the first time you saw those dances?
All right. I'm gonna go to. I'm not gonna go to the first time I saw it right in front of my eyes.
All right.
I'm gonna go with when I saw it on TV,
All right.
and it was rerun on What's Happening.
Got it.
It was,
And that was a mid to late 70s show.
yeah. I was a kid. I was probably in a group home at the time when I saw it. So that was in my head, the locking. But I didn't even know it was called locking. I thought it was called the rerun.
Right.
Because rerun was the one I saw on TV doing it with the lockers, but I didn't pay attention to the lockers because rerun was the star.
Yeah.
We liked the TV show What's Happening. He was a funny, heavy guy, charismatic. So you were attracted to him. Well, I was attracted to his energy. And then when he started dancing, I was like, oh God, this guy is a talent,
Right.
So that planted a seed in my head, but I didn't realize it did until I saw the moonwalk done right in front of me. And that was one of my brother's gay friends. He came to the house like they usually do to dance, hang out, a lot of weed smoking. Yeah. When I left the group home, I didn't smoke weed, but I was introduced to weed. There was a lot of weed smoking, right?
Big culture shock.
Yeah, big culture shock. Weed rolling joints for this. We better not ever see you do this. Without, I was scared of my older brothers, so they didn't know I smoked weed until I was 30.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't say 30, but I would, till late. But Julio, same name as mine, one of my brother's gay friends, he came to the house and said they were going to get ready to dance. He said, man, hey, the hustle is old. Check this out. And he did the moonwalk. And all of us were just like, when you see something like that for the very, very, very first time ever, you think this guy's magic. He defied gravity. You know what I mean? And we were like, well, you got to workshop. We didn't say workshop. We just said, you got to teach us this now. So everybody just stood up. The few people that were there, 3 or 4 people in the living room area, stood up, show us this shit. And then I got up and I said, oh, I could do that. And I did my version of rerun, which sucked, But I knew for some reason that rerun, that locking, which I guess, like I said at the time, I called it the rerun, was related to this that he's doing. It was planted in my head. So as soon as he did that, I said, let me do the rerun. I knew that they were related somehow.
Right.
But he said, oh, no, that's the rerun. That's old, too. This is the new thing. The moonwalk. It's called this is the moonwalk. So I learned the moonwalk. And because sometimes it was just me in my house by myself. My brother, one is on the Lower East Side. The other one's running the streets. My gay brother's out working on the weekdays or whatever he's doing. And then he comes home and he's tired. He's in his room or whatever. Only most of the times it was weekends when we had the groups come in of his friends and we'll hang out and they'll smoke weed and my mom will be cooking and they'll be playing music or whatever. So I was bored and I practiced the shit. I had a moonwalk from hell.
Right.
Like, that was the only move I had. And they used to throw little parties like right up the block from my house in a schoolyard there, little jams.
Right.
I'd go there and moonwalk my ass off in circles with other dancers.
Right.
No, in a cipher. I'm not moonwalking in a circle. I'm inside of a circle moonwalking. In a cipher, just doing that over and over again. and other dancers in the local area, other poppers are there too that have been popping a little bit longer than me.
Right, right.
And I start picking up some of the stuff they're doing to add to the moonwalk. I look, we'll go home, try to figure it out. Go home, try to figure it out. And then started developing my skill. Started getting a little better and better at it.
So you started popping first.
Yes, yeah, the moonwalk, yeah.
Got it. And during the moonwalk and popping, was it called electric boogie back then?
Yeah, it was called the electric boogie. Exactly what it was called. The electric boogie. We had the electric boogie. Yeah.
Yeah. And what were they? Were you guys called Boogie Boys at the time?
Yep.
Or just dancers?
No, it was called Boogie Boys. That's why when they say break boy, B-boy, boogie boy, B-boy, that in the 90s they came up with that we're B-boys because boogie boys and break boys. But really B-boys were but really B-boys were gangster motherfuckers. Because cats in Brooklyn, I found out later on, they rolled in big ass posses, where gangsters in New York from the Bronx rolled by themselves, and they were fucking nuts.
Right.
They were crazy. They didn't play no games. If you came at them, somebody was getting hurt. Either they were dying or you were dying or hospitalized or something. It wasn't no little beat down type thing. With somebody that's by themselves and he feels they can take on the world.
Got it. All right. So you're being influenced in the late 70s by what's happening in Rerun.
Yeah.
1980, early 80s, you're beginning to pop.
I'm beginning to pop. I'm moonwalking and I'm figuring out these moves, not by asking somebody to teach, just watching. The moonwalk got me in that circle.
Right.
And then when I'm in that circle, I see other guys that have a little bit more than me. And I'm picking up. And I'm going home trying to figure it out on my own.
Now for the wider audience, if you could, what's the difference between popping, boogieing, and locking? Just a different style?
Yeah, locking is a badass dance. I mean, I'm still a big time student of locking right now to this day. Again, a lot of the stuff I've learned just trying to figure it out on my own. Not taking any classes, I do want to take classes with some really good lockers that are established. But I haven't had a chance to do that. I do watch videos and I pick up and I'm good with seeing something and figuring it out on my own and making it look funky. So, and I'm more closer to what Rerun did, it's a different type of locking style than most lockers today.
Okay.
Today, lockers have names for every single move. They have names for moves.
Right.
And they have a way of teaching, which is cool for teaching, having these names and having these moves that you can drill yourself on them and then apply them in your routine. But locking is very fluent and very high energy and very funky and very rhythmic. Popping, depending on the style of popping you do. I like animation style. I like robotic, waving, stuff that makes you look fake. Glides that looks like you're floating on air. Waves going through your body and coming out. Pops in the robot to make you look robotic. I like that stuff. There's also the electric boogaloo style, which is more about dance. It's more about rhythm. It's all more about rocking the beat and riding the beat, which really became, they took the robot, because the robot was the popular dance in the West Coast at the time, and they made the robot dance because the lockers were just destroying these robot people, because they were just moving and they were so, so fluent and they can so funky and they had so much energy that the robots are just dancing against this this incredible dancer that's just, you know, dancing circles around the robot. So I don't know where the Boogaloo came from. I'm hearing that Sam was the one, Boogaloo Sam
Right,
was
right.
the one that said, hey, we need to make the robot dance. We can't compete with the lockers unless we make the robot dance. The robot has to be more loose, more fluent. It needs to have more funk and more rhythm. And I think that was the birth of Electric Boogaloo. Now, this is not 100%. I don't want to speak on the West Coast movement and have somebody saying, "Oh, he don't know what the hell he's talking about." But I heard something to that effect.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Now, wow. So that's a lot of great info.
yeah.
Junior high school 22, you're already in the locking, popping world.
But well, I wasn't locking then.
Okay.
I tried. Remember when I saw Julio do the moonwalk? I tried to do the rerun,
Got it. Got
but
it.
I wasn't locking at the time. I was just trying to do the rerun because I knew it was related.
All right.
But I did learn the moonwalk, and again, I started going to a little schoolyard jam not too far from my house, few blocks up, because I had to be close, right? Or mom would come look for me. So I would pick up electric boogie from somebody more advanced electric boogie dancers that were in my vicinity or went to that schoolyard. So I was all electric boogie.
Got it. Got it. All
There was
right.
no
So,
there was no locking until later.
got you. Appreciate that. So, all right. Who else in junior high school 22 during that during that era, was also popping? Who were you popping with
I
and
got
against?
influenced. I was influenced and started really getting out there from junior high school 22. I remember a talent show that was there. There was a kid there. His name was Eric. And this is not there's two different Erics, but this one he was a kid in the school.
Uh-huh.
I was a little bit older. He was definitely a little bit younger, like probably just getting coming from elementary and just getting into junior high school. And there was a guy there because when you came out of school, a lot of the neighborhood cats that used to go to the school or high school kids or whatever would hang out in front of the school when you're leaving school.
Mhm.
They were out there hanging out in front of the school or in the schoolyard. And I remember a circle going on there, and I seen Eric. That was the most amazing popper I've seen, and he was a kid. And then another guy came out named Henry. They called him Hen Love. He came out, and I was like, "Holy shit!" These dudes were the guys that were on my block in the schoolyard they were okay, but these guys were like, "Oh, wow," you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to gravitate towards them. Like, you know what I'm saying? These are brothers. The ones that were in my neighborhood, there was a guy named T-Boy and another guy, I forget, it was T-Boy. He was Spanish. And I forgot the other guy's name. But I remember T-Boy because he was dope, and he was the one that I used to kind of watch and try to pick up from. And he was Spanish. And he was good. He was smooth, but he wasn't in Love and Eric.
Right, right.
And Nat T. There's another kid named Nat T. That they were all just super dope, and they used to go to the schoolyard and just because they were catching fame
Right, right.
at school, and they were just either getting into high school or they dropped out of junior high school. They just come to the schoolyard.
Right.
I guess they dance, get the girls or whatever. That's how they were doing it, and they had their chick magnet Eric.
Right.
That was a little kid. So now I got these people going to my school, which I have easy access, and my school is further out. But I have permission to go there because it's school.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
I have to be there, right? So now I'm extending. I'm going out further. I'm not walking around the corner up the block and catching local boys in my neighborhood. Now I'm seeing cats from a whole nother neighborhood out there doing their thing. And they're on a whole nother level. So that was junior high school 22. And I remember they had a talent show in junior high school 22. I wasn't in it because I wasn't ready for that type of stuff. But Hen Love, Nat T, and Eric were in it. And another crew came. this was amazing. This is like where my showmanship, where all of a sudden showmanship got planted in my head. When Eric, Natty, and Hen Love did their thing. They did their whole popping routine, right? Or well, electric boogie routine. And then they did the arm wave thing, which we didn't see that, clap hands and do that. That was the thing. And then they send it to Eric, and then Eric just break loose and the girls, all the kids screaming because he was a kid, right? He was little, but he was in that school, but he was a kid. And then another group comes up. This group comes up. They're wearing white bow ties. They're wearing all black. They got black collared shirts, black shirt, black pants, white sneakers, white bow tie, white suspenders. All black. All black. I think there's about 4 or 5 of them. And they get up on stage, and I'm like, whoa. Like they're already just getting up on stage was like, whoa.
Right.
And then they go and they start doing their routines. And they're doing routines. They're doing the tuck the behind each other. And they're doing the king tuck routines behind each other, and then poking out and poke and want to poke this one, to poke that way. Right. They were doing routines together. And then they all roboted. They had a mean robots, like the kind of robots that I seen maybe on Soul Train at the time or something like that. Like these guys were roboting like dope. I was like, yo. And in my mind, I'm saying, wow, they're going to win this. In my mind, they were the winners, but they didn't. Right. They didn't win because they're going to go for the school favorite, Eric. So they did by applaud, but they won. They won. But that planted all right, dress up, be an entertainer, be a performer. That's where that came in. And I was like, oh, right. That's when that came in. The entertainment part of me said, I need to get some of that too. I need to look the part. I need to start looking good out there, right? And then maybe a year or two later, or maybe a year or two later, I met the leader of that crew. And I met him through a friend that I started dancing with, who became kind of like my mentor. Let me see. No. I'm moving a little fast. I'm establishing a name for myself at this point. T-Boy lived up the block in Roosevelt Gardens, up the block from where I was living at on 172nd Street and Townsend Avenue. That's the building that I was living in, where we were living on the first floor, right around the corner from Townsend Avenue. Going towards 170th Street was where the schoolyard was, where T-Boy would go. He ruled there. Right. But I found out he lived on Roosevelt Gardens, which is right up the block from my house on the Grand Concourse. So I started hanging out up there at Roosevelt Gardens, where T-Boy was, and T-Boy knew a guy named Magic Mike. Now, this is not the movie. Right. Name, Magic Mike. And T-Boy said, yo, I learned a lot of my stuff from this guy named Magic Mike. You know what I mean? And I'm going over there to his house now. We practice in his hallway. And I was like, should I ask or should I just go? You know what I mean? So I just trusted T-Boy and I just went. I got in trouble, but I just went. He lived on 160, around 160, near Yankee Stadium. Okay. Around that area, Mike. And T-Boy introduced me to him, and Mike at the time was not dancing anymore. He was like not really dancing anymore. And but he's the first person to actually, he was working with T-Boy. So he started working with me to actually start teaching me moves. Remember, I was trying to figure things out on my own. Now with Magic Mike, he's like, okay, I want you to do this. Go from your shoulders, throw your wave down like this way, throw your wave like that. And he would do a little something, but never really go all out. Right. So I'm like, is this motherfucker really a dancer? Does he know what he's doing? Or because I want him to go out. He never went all out until one point. Never went all out, but was teaching me these moves, and everything was coming out smoother. I was learning these moves. I was learning the hits. I was learning how to use my shoulders because he was famous for that. Mike was famous for working his shoulders hard. With Electric Boogie, we didn't use the muscle like the California people did. We used our shoulders, and so he was using his shoulders and stuff like that. He was teaching me all that stuff. So I started getting a little bit better. Not only was he teaching me these things, but he was also mentoring me and telling me about everybody that was in the area, in the Bronx, even down to Manhattan. He knew the electric company. He knew the top dancers that he was like, listen.
You talking electric company down on the Lower East Side?
Yeah. He knew everybody. He knew everything. Yes. Well, they were electric company. I think BAM was a different. I think they were electric something, but I don't think they were electric company.
Okay.
But you might be right. I'm not sure. But he was telling me about all these people. He knew about everybody.
I'll interview him one day.
Yeah, he gave me names, and he gave me one name in particular. He said Scooter. He said Chet. Now Chet is known as Shake.
Got it.
He's a DJ, and Shake is everything. He does everything well.
I just released his video Monday.
Yeah, he does everything well. Shake. So his name was Chet. So he's like, listen, man, these are the people. And the reason why he's telling me that because he sees me. He's like, yo, you're gonna be the guy. Right. Like I've been working with this guy. I said, yo, you got some shit. I'm seeing something, and you're gonna be out there battling. They're gonna be coming at you because you're gonna. What I'm showing you, and then what you already have inside of you that I see that you don't see yet, you're going to be a problem. He already knew that. So he started telling me about these people. Loose Bruce, Chet, Scooter, Corey, Popala Corey, Little E. Now, not Little E from the school, but Little E from uptown that was down with 3D Crew. E.T. Terry, he's telling me about all these people, right? And by the way, they all happen to be black, right? Because the black pop electric boogie guys were the best. So he's like, you're gonna run into these people if you're gonna be if you go to these jams. But in my mind, I'm not going to those jams because I'm not even supposed to be here coming to see you every week or every day or whatever. When my mother finds out I left the block, I'm getting my ass kicked. Plus, I'm gonna be on punishment.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So here's where we get a twist. I did get in trouble, right? I got put on punishment. She found out. I ran away from home.
All right.
I became a runaway. I ran away from home. I didn't want to be there. I really wanted to chase this dancing. I really wanted to do this.
Right.
It was the only thing that kept me sane. I loved it. There was even though we had dance in my house, there was stressful times, and I wasn't used to it because I was, not used to that type of shit.
Yeah.
Not used to, over the years, all those stressful times that I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
So I, at one point, said, I got to get the fuck out of here. I ran away from home. Ran away from home, wind up running with the wrong people and got locked up, put in Spofford, juvenile facility. Right? And I remember having I had a tag. It was a fake tag, not gold or silver. It was like wood. It said Magic Motion Crew. We would wear those things. And I remember being in Spofford, and they let me wear my shit. That was a surprise. And I'm passing. We were in a line going from one place to another place in Spofford. I was only there for a couple of weeks. One place to another place, and somebody said, "Yo, you down with Magic Motion?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Tell Mike I said, what's up, Scooter." And I was like, "Oh, I heard about you."
You met Scooter at Spofford?
I met Scooter in Spofford, yeah. Right. And because I met Scooter in Spofford, even though I was a juvenile, You know what I mean? I wasn't wild. I wasn't gangster, but he had my back. He knew I was Magic Motion because he was part of. Magic said he was with Magic Motion crew, but he was more part of like the Magic Motion family.
Got
You
it.
know, he really liked Mike's style because Mike is probably the toughest, the wickedest Latino that I've ever seen dance at the time. He was crazy, and he battled against all the ones that he met. He battled Loose Bruce. He battled Chet Shake. He battled the best. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I met Scooter. And after I got out of Spofford, I had to go back home. And the judge said if if we release you, releasing you to your mom, you need to go back home. You can't, because they knew I ran away and I didn't want to go back. Now you got to go back home, otherwise we're gonna put you in another group home, but it ain't gonna be like the one you was in. It's not gonna be something you're gonna be happy with. So I went back home, and I remember I still did what I had to do. I was still rebellious. I was still drifting off, going places, taking an ass kicking every now and then, having to sleep on the steps. I had about 4 or 5 little steps right in front of my apartment where I'd stay. You stay out late, you're gonna stay right out there in that damn hallway. We're not letting you in. I'm not letting you in. You want to be a man, right? That this is my mother's way of teaching, making you tough. So I took that. I said, "Fuck it, I'll stay in there," And at some point, wind up drifting down to Washington and Webster Avenue. I wanted to get down there because that's where Mike said that Scooter hangs out at.
Right.
And there's jams down there. You know what I mean? That's some of the dopest jams for Washington and Webster Avenue. So I wound up down there. Now, kind of dangerous because at the time, Puerto Rican and black folk, Puerto Ricans usually tried to stay on their side of the concourse, and black folks stayed on their side of the concourse. This is a full-on project, Washington Webster Avenue. And so I get down there, and then that's when I met Scooter, and I met Corey Pop-A-Lot again because I seen him at 22, and then I seen him in the Jam.
Right.
So now I'm at a full-out, one of the most popular jams in that part of the Bronx, and some of the dopest dancers there. And I'm trying to get in where I fit. And I'm doing my thing. I'm getting props. They respected me. They like what I'm doing. They're like, yo, this dude is kind of dope. What me and Scooter eventually wind up kind of like partnering up. We wind up being partners. We wind up learning routines together and stuff like that. We had a little hammer. They had a thing called hammers.
Right.
We had hammer routines that me and him made up. Scooter was known for the mannequin. He had the best mannequin. We called it the mannequin, was basically the robot.
Right.
But they called it Scooter the mannequin is the shit. He's got the best mannequin. He's got the best. Till one day, Scooter says, "You think my mannequin is dope? You think my robot is dope? Check this dude out." And he points to me at this dude. This dude has a classic. This was a big ass boom box, carrying it, not on his shoulder, but carrying it onto his side. Big ass boom box, not a big afro, but an afro, right? And he's like, check this dude out. And he goes out and he starts doing the robot. And I go, that's the guy from the school, the guy from the talent show. And a Scooter is saying, fuck my robot, check him out. And his name, he lives here in Jacksonville. Became one of my best friends. His name is Disco Jr.
Disco Jr.
Disco Jr. And he was a good, I found out later on that he was a decent DJ because he would invite me to his house after we got to know each other. And he had equipment. And he played mixed music and create his own music and all that stuff. Me and him became friends. He's like my best friend today, like, because everybody else is pretty much gone. But yeah.
What's his real name? Can you say his real name?
Alfonso Harris.
Alfonso Harris.
Alfonso Harris, yeah. And he had a hella robot. He had a hella robot. And he stayed with a boombox. Stayed with a boombox. Like, he always had music with him. And mixtapes with him of what was happening at the time. And I didn't hang out with him because I didn't see him often. He didn't go to jams often. But I knew where he lived at. At some point, I found out where he lived at and hung out in his hallway, went inside his apartment, watched the mix or whatever. But he didn't really go to jams like that. So I would love for him to go to jams and just start roasting some people like, yo, you're so dope. Why don't you come out to Webster? Just let these people know. But he never did that. He was just more like humble and quiet and he's more into doing and performing, with his group,
What's his crew's name?
I don't remember the name of the crew. I saw them once in that school and never ever again. I saw him, but never the other. Now, one time I visited him in Jacksonville and he showed me a picture of him and the crew dressed the same exact way. He had I believe it was a Polaroid and that picture. And I was like, yeah, that was the crew but I don't know who those extra people were and where they went or anything like that. I think that Junior is originally from the South. And from what I heard, that a lot of popping from the West Coast came through the South before it came to the West.
Right.
So a lot of people in the South were dope, They were getting that West Coast flavor. It came through the South and then came East. So I guess he got some of that. And earlier, firsthand. But yeah, I started getting some notoriety from Washington Avenue for being down on Washington Avenue, and then just being very rebellious, staying out on the streets, staying in my hallway, sleeping on the train, Some of the fellas, like I remember not staying with Shake. Again, his name was Chet, but hanging out in his hallway till daybreak with him and talking, because I'm sure he knew I had nowhere to go. So he didn't say, hey, you can come in my house, sleep here, because I guess he probably was living with somebody and he couldn't do that. But he'll just stay out in the hallway and we'll talk all night. And then when the sun came out, I'll go home and I can go in the house when the sun was. But I couldn't go there late night and wake anybody up. If I did, all hell would break loose.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
So I was rebellious. I had to be rebellious for me to learn and to be out there. And I eventually start meeting other dancers and people where I could crash at their crib for a night, then go home, that type of thing.
Got it.
I even found out about a shelter. This is when my street performing came in. And I found out about a shelter called Covenant House down in Manhattan. Somebody told me, you want to get a place to stay, you can stay at Covenant House. There's a place for runaways. If you're under 21, you can stay there. So I wound up staying in a Covenant House a few nights. When I went, going all the way down to 42nd Street and going to Covenant House. And
now, how old are you at this point now?
I would say,
seems like we're out of junior high school, 22, in middle school.
Yeah, I'm in junior high school, coming out of junior high school, 22, probably getting ready to go into high school, probably Taft.
Got it.
I was in Taft High School. So around that time, yeah. Because I dropped out of Taft High School.
All right.
I was rebellious. I got rebellious.
I hear you, man.
If I remember correctly, I got kicked out of 22 junior high school. I got really rebellious. I was going through some shit, just not really feeling what was going on in my home when I compared it to the group home.
Right.
Because in the group home, I had everything I needed. I didn't have to worry about a meal. I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't see no arguments. I didn't see no fights. I didn't, none of that type of shit. And I saw that there, and it started getting in me. I just started becoming rebellious. And the dance was my getaway.
Right.
It was. I didn't think about it at that time, but at that time, the dance was my getaway. It was go to a jam, hang out at the jam, get away from fucking home, and then meet somebody there, and then maybe They'll hang out with me all night until I can go back inside my house.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Got it.
So
All
I
right.
would say probably about, I was under 21. I was under 21 because I was able to go to Covenant House.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take you back to junior high school 22. And before we leave that era, right? That's
All
about,
right.
that's about 1980, 1983, time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
I would say around 80, 83.
All right.
83, yeah.
Were there any visible breaking crews, popping crews at all during middle school that you were familiar with? Were you in a crew during middle school, or were you still going solo?
Well, eventually I got with Magic Motion Crew. That was the first crew I got with. Which
Right.
was Magic Mike was teaching me, and I became a member of Magic Motion Crew. I did hear about, I knew about, you heard about Fable and Wiggles.
Yes.
And the reason why you hear, especially me, I heard about Fable and Wiggles because when I started gaining notoriety, people were like, we like to, they wanted to see the Puerto Ricans battle.
Right,
We like to see, Wiggles and you, or you and Fable. That was as I started building my skills and getting notoriety. They wanted to see that battle. They wanted to see who's the dopest Puerto Rican in street dancing at the time.
All right. Now in middle school, what other crews did Magic Motion battle, and or you battle?
I only battled individuals. I never battled any crews. And Magic Motion never battled any crews. But I can remember off the top of my head, Electric Company, 3D Crew. Was 3D Crew, Electric Company. Who else? HBO Crew.
Right.
Who else was it? HBO Crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably about it. You know what? I just want to, now that you mentioned 3D Crew and I mentioned HBO Crew, it brings me back to Julio that taught me the moonwalk. And he learned, I don't want to I want to step back because I don't want to leave somebody out.
Right.
But Julio learned the moonwalk from his nephew named Papo, who had the name Kid Freeze. Not Kid Freeze, the head spinner or the breaker, but Kid Freeze, the popper. But he could also break. And the reason why I'm remembering to bring this up is because you said name crews. There was a crew called Freeze Force that Mr. Freeze from the movie Flashdance created.
Got it.
And he's the one that taught Papo, and there was a couple of other. There was Kid Freeze, Little Freeze, Baby Freeze, Tiny Freeze, and he was teaching it because they lived in Machula Parkway. They lived in his building, so he was teaching them moves. Mr. Freeze would go to California, right? Learn all this stuff in California and come out and do it and battle people with the stuff. Because he's Mr. Freeze. I'm not going to say because he was white and he was French, but he did live a better life than we did. We didn't have video cameras. We didn't have flights to go, you know what I mean, out and do that. So he was able to interact with people out on the West Coast and then come back with that stuff. So even though he was a breaker, he was also known for his popping, Mr. Freeze. And so I also accredit Papo, not Julio, because Julio could only do the moonwalk, but I also accredit Papo for me to learning some of the popping moves, because I would go visit them at Machula Park because they were close friends of my family. We used to call each other cousins. Julio was my brother's partner. Julio was gay, my brother was gay. So we were like family. So I was able to go down to Machula Parkway because we were like family, and Julio was there. Julio's mother would take care of me. My mom knew I was there. So I was able to go over Machula Parkway and hang out with them. So I would work out in the hallway with them, and I learned some popping from Papo and breaking. I started picking up breaking too because they could break. That's around the time when I started picking up a little bit of breaking too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention that when you mentioned crews. So they were called Freeze Force. And there were all these little kids that could pop and break that are learning from Mr. Freeze.
Now,
And I was not too far from that age. I was probably about a year or two older.
got it. Talk to us about the breakers that you saw, associated with, ran with.
Oh yeah. Well, you see the shirt I got on right now?
I see it, man. I see it. New York City Breakers.
Hey. They just made me a New York City Breaker.
Awesome, awesome.
So I finally made it to an iconic group.
Yes.
But the thing is that New York City Breakers used to practice on Kingsbridge Road inside of a school over there. I think it might have been Walton High School. I'm not sure. But they used to practice around Kingsbridge Road. That was their practice spot.
Got it.
Now, that's not my first time. That was not my first time meeting them, but that was where they used to practice. And the reason why I knew that was because the Freeze Force and other kids around the Freeze Force on Machilla Parkway knew where the New York City Breakers practice and go there and practice with them. But a couple of those kids were not going there to practice with New York City Breakers. They were going there to show New York City Breakers we can hang.
Right.
And a couple of them could. And that was confirmed about 2 months ago when Kid Nice from New York City Breakers, the leader, mentioned two kids that I used to hang out with in Machilla Parkway that were not down with the Freeze Force. Right? But they mentioned, and they were like, well, there was this kid named Tyrone. Noel said this. A kid named Tyrone, he had a brother named Lizard. And he had the craziest windmills. This kid was power. He used to come. I said, I know Tyrone. He used to hang out on Machilla Parkway. Because first of all, they were kids, right? So they kept each other company. They loved hanging out with each other because it was kids. And they had a big hallway on Machilla Parkway where they would practice in the hallway. And so a lot of the kids, the best kids from then, like Little Alex from the NC Breakers and Cujo that went to Rocksteady, they used to practice in that hallway. That was the spot. And the reason why they went to that hallway because there was one kid there that was outstanding, but his mother never, ever let him go outside of the hallway. He couldn't leave. So because this kid, his name is Baby Freeze, his real name is Tito, because this kid was so dope, everybody would magnetize to that because Tito would set the bar high. So they would go to that hallway to practice with Tito, Baby Freeze. And you have Cujo, and you have Little Alex, and you had Tyrone, and you had Thomas, and you had Kid Freeze, who was not really my cousin, but I called him my cousin, Papo. Right. And you had Tiny Freeze, who was a wild little fucker. Not only was a good dancer, but he was the gangster out of them. Even though he was a kid, you could see that he was the gangster out of them. As a kid, he would step to a grown-ass man. This kid was wild. So that's kind of like the first breaking crew of people I was hanging around with. Mm-hmm. Was like Freeze Force added other kids that wanted to be around the Freeze Force, but mainly really around Tito because Tito set the bar high, Baby Freeze. And then I started hearing about going to Kingsbridge where the New York City Breaker practiced. And one of the reasons why they would practice around New York City Breakers because they wanted to show that they can hang with these. Like Tyrone was like, I'm showing you, I can smoke the New York City Breakers. I can smoke anyone in there. That's how his mentality was.
Right.
And the thing about it is that it was confirmed because Noel mentioned it just a few months ago about Tyrone. I said, oh shit, I knew Tyrone. So yeah. And then eventually it was New York City Breakers that I hung around with more because they were in the Bronx and they were close to I would go there, travel to their practice spot with, I think it was Walton High School with the Freeze Force guys. You know what I mean? Or Tyrone, because Tyrone was always a guy that said, I'm my own guy. I could battle anybody. He was arrogant, and he could back it up too.
Yeah.
So he wasn't down with this crew or that crew. He was just his dude. He was him. But since he was around Freeze Force, he backed them up.
Got it. Got it. So you knew the New York City Breakers, but not before the transition from Floor Masters.
No, when they were New York City Breakers, not Floor Masters. It's later on. They actually, the first time I met New York City Breakers was not at the school though.
Okay.
First time I met New York City Breakers was at a talent show on the Grand Concourse, not far from my house, and I was with T-Boy at the time, and me and T-Boy, and we had that influence of wearing a costume like from my buddy Junior.
Right.
So we went to this. It was a Catholic school, a Catholic church. It had a center inside of it and a stage. And we went there, and we were going there to win. We was like, we're going to win this bitch. We had a little routine. We were dressed nice, and then in comes walking these fucking dudes that look like superheroes. I mean, these dudes looked like superheroes. They had red Adidas suits with white stripes and with sneakers to match, shell top, with red stripes. About 4 or 5 of them. They were built. They were healthy, mini Mike Tyson necks. Like these guys were like, like these guys look like they're coming in to beat the whole place up. Like not break, but come in and like they were fighters. Like Champion, you can see Champion all over them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had a glow in their skin, because we remember we didn't have the best meals all the time, right? Coming from the hood, you looked a little rough. Your skin wasn't as, what I mean? These dudes were taken care of.
Yeah.
So when they walked in, I was like, and one of my boys said, "That's the New York City Breakers." I said, "Let's just hope they don't get in the contest." I already knew we lost as soon as I saw them, just by seeing them. They got in the contest. And it was over. We had no chance.
You remember about what year that was?
I would say around 83, 84.
All right.
Because I was already at least 3 to 4 years in the game.
Got it.
Of dancing. So 83, 84. And this was before I started going down. Well, no. I was already going down, hanging out the Freeze Force, but going to their workout spot. I wasn't going to their workout spot.
Right.
I didn't know them. I'd never seen these guys before. So I would say 83, 4, maybe a little later, who knows? But the reason why I know 83 is because I did a movie in 83 called That's Dancing.
Got it. Talk to me about that.
And Dynamic and Furious Rockers were in that movie.
All right. How did that happen? How did you find out about that movie?
Huh?
How did that happen? How did you first find out about that movie before you got into it?
Well, I was walking on the Grand Concourse and a car pulled up on me and it was like, listen, I had a graffiti hat on that somebody gave me. And they were like, we noticed you have that graffiti hat on. We're looking for a place where we can find a lot of graffiti. We need to find a lot of graffiti. And these were white people.
Right.
So first I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Should I talk to them or should I just, stranger danger? I'm a little, and they were like, hey, we're filming a movie. We need a wall. And I told them to go to 161st Street. There was a mural over there, but it wasn't all graffiti or nothing like that.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, well, here, they gave me a card and they said, tell your mom to call this or tell your parents or whoever it is, call this number, talk to this person. For you helping us out, we're going to get you a little spot in the movie. So, my mom made the call and they found a spot down on, where the Graffiti Hall of Fame is down in Manhattan?
Yeah.
That was the location. They found that. So she was like, yeah, they're going to use it. They want to put you in the movie. So she took me down there and we went down there and brought us to this room, gave us these shell top Adidas. They gave us all shell top Adidas. My first brand new pair of sneakers I ever got, because everything was heavy down. So they gave us these sneakers and my mom had to sign. I was too young. She had to sign a waiver and all that stuff, when you're filming. So I remember I had to sign because I was getting paid for that day. I don't think it was union, but I was getting paid. Or was it union? It may have been union. I think it was union. They said I was eligible to join the union from doing that movie. I didn't know what the fuck that was, but they were
Yeah.
telling her that. So, and then I remember. So yeah, because I gave them that information, they gave me the card. She called. She said it's for real. They want you to go down to this place and film this movie. They're gonna put. So she, of course, yeah. I'm gonna take you down there to be in the movie. You're gonna get paid for it. Cool. Now she's like, let me support my son. I'm getting checks.
Right.
Now she's like, so she went crazy because Gene Kelly walked right past her. She was like, oh my God, that's Gene Kelly. I'm like, who the fuck's Gene Kelly? Right? I don't know stars by names at that time. I do know them by the movies, Singing in the Rain. Oh, that's the guy that did. Now, at this time, Gene Kelly is old, right? But I'm not the guy for Singing in the Rain. He don't look like him. He's older now, you know. And she's just like, she asked for an autograph. She's never been on a movie set. She doesn't know. Even me at that time didn't know that you're not supposed to fuck with the celebrities like that when you're on a movie set. But we're innocent. We don't know those rules. We don't know that. So she's like, get his autograph. Take a picture with him. And I'll send you the newspaper article where I'm standing right behind Gene Kelly with Dynamic around them. I still have that. I'm wearing a Kango.
Any newspapers, photographs, flyers, anything old with you on it?
Yeah. So that's why I know I know I started in 1980, and by 83, I know in 83 I was already dancing. Right. I was not kick ass, but I was doing enough, to get out there. And I was in the culture. I was following the culture. I was wearing the graffiti hat. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for me wearing that graffiti hat, I would have never got that part. They would have never recognized, yo, this is a guy, he must know where graffiti is. They probably thought I was a graffiti artist.
What'd you do in the movie?
I really didn't get a good shot in it. Like I said, I wasn't really dancing like that really well. There was another white boy that came over there that I'd never seen. He was from Manhattan. That was sick. Yeah. That was waving and doing all this. His name was Cormac. And I was like, oh, shit. So, I mean, I was okay, but I wasn't on Cormac's level. So I got, and then I wasn't supposed to be in it. Anyway, they already had booked the Dynamic Rockers or Breakers. I don't know. Dynamic Rockers used to be one, and then they split and became Dynamic Rockers and Dynamic Breakers. So I don't know which half of them were in the movie.
Right.
But they were badass. You had Spider doing a Spider. I've never seen breaking like that. Like, until I seen Nancy Breakers, I couldn't. And then I seen Serious Rockers were on it too. So they were on a whole nother level.
Right.
They were already.
Spider eventually became a dynamic breaker.
Yeah, they were on a whole nother level. I wasn't there, so my part in the movie was not really big. I did the moonwalk. Remember, I said I had a mean moonwalk, so they probably noticed that and said, "Let's just use him for that." So I did the moonwalk when I was connected to everybody right behind Gene Kelly. So we moonwalked behind him, and then he comes up and he starts speaking about dance. So that was So you see me do the moonwalk, and that's pretty much it.
What was the name of the movie again?
That's Dancing.
That's Dancing. Now, how about it must have been later on, you were in a movie called Rooftop.
Yes, I did Rooftops. Now that was later. That was a lot later. That was in my street performing days, and I got that bit. And they had a big audition for that. A lot of people auditioned for it. And I used to do a slow motion routine with the drummer that we used to, rest in peace, Ion. He was a drummer for the Street Hitters at the time. And he used to do with my slow motion routine, go with me, and I would like hammer, and and go in slow motion all the way down to the ground and then bounce on the floor. So I did that at the audition, and they loved it, and they put it in That's Dancing. But and Tisha Campbell from the movie, from the TV show, Martin Lawrence, his wife or his girlfriend in that show,
Gina.
she was the one that was like hitting me as I was going across the stage in slow motion.
Got it.
Yeah. But that was in my street performing days, and I think that was in the 90s or something like that.
All right. But you know what? Let's talk about it, because you said something, and your name has come up when I've interviewed street hitters, like J-Day and Mr. Nice,
Yeah.
Just real quick, because I'll be honest with you, in the hip hop world, I think hitters get the least visibility.
Yes.
But they're in front of the main public every day more than any other,
Yes.
form of hip hop dancers. Talk to us about what's a hitter.
Well, basically a street performer, other name, they call them buskers. Street performers, we have our hood slang. We're hitters. But my hitting days began by staying at Covenant House when I ran away from home.
All right.
That was down in Manhattan. So walking around down in Manhattan, which Covenant House was on 42nd Street, walking around down there is when I started running into hitters and basically battling hitters that were dope. They had a whole nother level. They were dope because they were dancing every day of their lives out there, and they were doing, from the day to the night of dancing. So
this is how they earn their living.
They earned their living. They were good. They were good. And so I wound up battling against some of them, and they were like, "Yo, this dude is dope. Let's get this money." I started making friends with hitters. I started making some money so I can eat. Eventually a place to stay. Cats would welcome me to their house. Hitters, yeah, come on, stay at my place, man. You don't gotta, fuck that. Stay at my place. You know what I mean? So I started staying and living with hitters, and
You want to name a few? Who were the main hitters that you were down with, that you danced with?
The first hitter I met was Float Master John. He was the first hitter I met. I was at 59th Street, Columbus Circle. Now, we're going to go back just a little bit to the Freeze Force. I used to do shows, tried to earn money on Fordham Road in the Bronx.
Okay.
And I remember somebody saying to me, "Yo, you ain't gonna make that much money up here. You're gonna go down there with those white people are. You gotta go down to Manhattan with them white, but there be dudes out there be raking up money. They be having buckets full of money down there. You gotta go down there." So one day I got Kid Freeze, a couple of us got together, and we took the train down to Manhattan, 59th Street, because we were fairly still young and we didn't know how to travel on a train. We knew that if we stayed on the Grand Concourse near where I lived at, the D train was right there, and it'll drop me off at 59th Street, and then we'll get back on and come back up to 170. We can't get lost. 170. And while we were at 59th Street and we were doing our show out there, we had our little shoebox out there. We wasn't passing them hat. We were just breaking. We were just dancing. People were just giving us money. John came up and said, "Yo, y'all in the wrong spot. The money's down there." And dug in his sock and stuck. He had a stack of money like I'd never seen that much money in my life in live.
Right.
Stack. Now, I don't know if it was 20, 10, but it was for me, being a young cat, even if it was all singles, that was like in his. See, I'm finished for the day. He was already paid. He did his thing. He's going home. So we went down there, and there was another crew down there, another part of John's crew down there. Wayne, Doug, Poe. They were flow committee, right? and Flow Committee were down. We wound up battling against Flow Committee. The Freeze Force battled the Flow Committee. We battled, and then they moved on. We just moved on. We went back up to 59th Street. Went back home. I remember the Freeze Force coming back with me downtown a couple more times, but then it was over. He stopped doing it with me.
Right.
And every now and then I was still going to Covenant House if I had an issue, I had a problem, I got in trouble, whatever. I was, still at the rebellious stage, and taking a walk one time staying at Covenant House, taking a walk down to Manhattan and running into Fantastic Four, which was Dynamite Universal, not Steve Clemente, the Spanish Mr. Wiggles, but Black Mr. Wiggles.
Got it.
And OB, rest in peace, his brother, and another kid. There was 4 of them. They were called the Fantastic Four. And we battled. I battled them. And that same night, they were like, yo, we're going to the Roxy. There's a contest over there. We're going to take it. You joining us. You coming with us. I said, yeah, but I got to get back to Covenant House at a certain time. I'm like, you staying with, don't worry about it. You stay with us. We're good. We're good. We're going to take this contest. We're calling ourselves Fantastic Four plus one more. So we went down there. We didn't get in the contest. I think it was too late to get in the contest. We never did the contest. But we had a great time in the Roxy. We had a blast. My first time in the Roxy. You know what I mean?
Describe it, man, because I spent a lot of time at the Roxy in the early '80s, and it's hard to describe someplace that big.
Yeah, it was huge. That place it was a skating rink. That's why it was huge. Yeah, but I had a good time. My first experience seeing all types of other dancers and breakers and all types. That opened the whole nother world of popping and breaking. Everything was in there. House, all types of dances were in the Roxy. So I spent the night with the Universal, and them. They said, anytime you want to stay, man, you can stay at our place. You don't need to stay out of, his mother, Universal's mother, automatically adopted me. She was like, you my Puerto Rican son. Anytime you come, I'm cooking for you. Because she cooked, and I was tearing up her food, soul food. I tore that. I said, wow, this is so good, because I never really had it, And she loved that. I loved that shit, She was like, you my Puerto Rican son. Anytime I'm gonna take care of you. You're gonna eat. So I had a place. Now I had a place. Now I'm not home anymore. Now I'm not even living home anymore. I'm out on the street. I'm hitting. I'm living with hitters. I'm like gone. And so yeah, the Fantastic Four plus one more, hitting every now and then with the Flow Committee, whoever I ran into out there, I'd go out there. I'd wait for them at the. After I started learning the spots, because they met up at certain spots, but I didn't know them. I started learning the spots, and I'd be there waiting for them. You know what I mean? And that's how I started learning how to hit. I started learning how to hit from Float Master, John, Wayne, Doug, and Poe, Flow Committee, and Fantastic Four plus one more, Universal and his crew. Those are the people that I started learning from on hitting. How to get out there, how to get the crowd, how to make sure we keep the crowd, how we start juice. I started learning how to juice. They started using me as a juicer. Juicer is the guy that goes around with the bucket and asks people for the money. And they showed me how to juice. I started learning how to juice. And I started getting good at juicing. They were like, "Oh, you the juicer. You the official juicer, man. We ain't stopping until you stop. So if the money starts slowing on and there's no more money coming in, and you put that bucket down, then we'll stop." And that's how it went down. So yeah. Then eventually I started meeting all. There was another crew that came out a little later on called the Breeze Team. Mr. Nice and Jada and them. They came on a little later on. They were like the Pepsi to the Coke. Flow Committee had their drummer, Ion, and their flipper and their routines and all their stuff. And Breeze Team had their flipper and their drummer and all their stuff. And they were rivals, So, yeah. So the Breeze Team was that second crew. And I was hitting with the Flow Committee for a while. The only problem is this flow committee had some demons that they were fighting. You know what I mean? I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to put their business out there. But they had their demons they were fighting, and I really wasn't with that. And the Breeze team did not have those type of demons. So I started working with the Breeze team more, and I wind up becoming friends with them and wind up basically living with the Breeze team on Morris Avenue, living with them. I mean, it was like what was it, 1 bedroom? I think it was a 1 bedroom apartment. And Nisi, I love her. Her home was everybody's home. The living room had bodies, people just living in the living room. 3, 4 people at a time. And she'd cook for everybody. You know what I mean? No complaints. We made money, so we just Nisi, here's the money, and she'll cook. And there was dinner ready when we, and even during the holidays, even though, I would still go say hi to mom, during the holidays and Thanksgiving, have Thanksgiving, you know what I mean? But, I was still rebellious. I was still out of the house. I loved what I was doing. I was able to go when I want, come when I want, do what I please, while I was living with the Breeze team. Yeah.
Awesome.
And eventually I became really strong at hitting and starting to learn the science to hitting. And I started watching, we started sharing spots with jugglers and circus type acts. And I started seeing these circus acts and these jugglers, one single man holding a crowd of 500. It took us a whole crew to do that. And we got one single person holding a crowd of 500 or 200 people by himself, filling up the steps of Central Park where the rowboats are. No seats left. And I start watching them like, what are they doing? What are they doing? How is this one person stopping all these people? And he's doing like 3 or 4 tricks. Everything is just talk and jokes and talks and jokes. And I said, that's it. We need to talk to these people. We need to joke with these people. We need to interact. And that's when I started figuring out how to become a talking show where you speak and you talk to the people. And we started that wind up coming out in Atlantic City. I went to Atlantic City with the Breeze team, right? Because we were looking for new spots. We were getting kicked out of and arrested in New York and all that stuff. So we started drifting out to different places. So Atlantic City was one of the places we went to. And I got a permit to work on the boardwalk of Atlantic City. And there was a cop there. And the cop just had it up to here with us with complaints about blocking the boardwalk. And we were drawing big crowds. But we had the permit. Cop said, I don't care. I don't care if you have a permit. I'm taking everybody to jail if you don't stop your show right now. I'm getting too many complaints. So he said, you know what? This is what the cop said. There's an amphitheater right down there. It's like a little stage. And it was off of the boardwalk. It was down. So the boardwalk is here. You got to walk down steps to get to the stage. And then there's seats, circle of seats. And I said, we need to do the talk shit show. Now it's time to talk. Now it's time to do all that stuff that I was watching and learning those jugglers and all those circus. We need to do that to work this spot. And that's where Disco Junior came in handy, my buddy, because he can DJ and he had mics. I said, Junior, go to Atlantic City. We want you to bring all your equipment. We're going to set it up down in this amphitheater. We're going to use the mic. We're going to pull the people down here, and we're going to start doing shows down here and try to fill up this amphitheater. That's the only way we can work Atlantic City. And we figured out how to work the steps. We figured out how to work that amphitheater. We figured out how to talk, make people laugh, interact with the people, and pull them down into the amphitheater. So now we started doing what we call in the street hitting world a talk. We call it a talk shit show. just talk a lot of shit. Because that's what we used to say that the jugglers used to do. They used to just talk shit and do 3 jokes. I said, yeah, well, they're talking shit and doing three little tricks, and they're making a hell of a lot of money.
Right.
So we need to figure out that science, and that's what we did. We figured out that science. We started doing a talk shit show. So we were like the first with the Breeze team. Well, first it started with the USA United Street Artists, right? And then the Breeze team came along, and it came to Atlanta. This was the Atlantic City thing, because I created my own crew later on down the line, which was United Street Artists, and the Breeze team had their crew, but we were still family. I was still staying with the Breeze team. We were still family, but I created my own squad, and they still had theirs. But as time went on, we connected together. We connected together, and it was Breeze Team USA. And we were doing Atlantic City together. And there were a lot of us. We were doing a talk shit show, but there was still, up to 11 of us working together. We would go on a bus to Atlantic City. Eventually, we stayed there for the whole weekend in a shit hotel near the boardwalk where we could just walk to the amphitheater. And to the point where we started living in Atlantic City for almost the whole summer in a shit hotel, weekly hotel, and doing shows there. So we were kind of like the first hitters that were doing a talk shit show. Eventually, Tic and Tac came along, and they started doing a talk shit show too. And now a lot of the kids are influenced by them because they were able to see Tic and Tac in Washington Square Park, where when we were doing our talk shit shows in Atlantic City, they didn't see us. So they weren't really influenced by us. They were influenced by Tic and Tac. And so a lot of people that are hitting today are still doing a version of the Tic and Tac show. If you go down Times Square, they're doing a small version of Tic and Tac mixed with the K-Mel show.
K-Mel show?
You know who K-Mel is? He was a hitter. He was with the Breeze team when he was a kid. He became one of the dopest b-boys on the planet, battling against the dopest b-boys on the planet, and became good friends with some of the biggest celebrities, Chris Brown, Missy Elliott. He's a hitter. He started off as a hitter and just became a beast. But then I guess he screwed himself up in Hollywood and came back to hitting. And he's used to making big money in Hollywood. And, when he was out there hanging out with Missy and Chris Brown being their personal trainer and teacher, dance captain or whatever for Missy Elliott. So he came back to hitting, and he knew the Tic and Tac show. So he was making good money doing that. But then he figured out other ways to get bigger bills out of people. $20 bills, even $100. They almost at every show that they do get $100 bill out of a person. So it's a show, but it winds up being a hustle at the end,
right?
Which a lot of people really don't go too crazy about, because it starts off strong. They got the level of the hitters are very high, really good dancing, and then at the end they're really aggressive with getting money out of people. They're trying to get 20s. It goes to trying to get 20s, $100 bills, $50 bills, $20 bills, $10 bills, and they get them. With the way K-Mel came up with that formula between K-Mel and Flea, who was another hitter too. So between K-Mel and Flea, they figured out a way to hustle the crowds. And now everybody out there is doing the Tic and Tac / K-Mel show.
Sweet, man. Wow, that's a lot of history that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
This is great stuff. Were there any other videos, films, or that you participated in?
Yes. One of the most popular ones, and I forget to tell people this, and I even told my boss this last year because he mentioned it, and that was the movie Crocodile Dundee.
All right.
So he's talking about, and I said, I'm in that. He was like, stop fucking with me. Then Cheeto break there. He's Italian. He has that Italian. He's from the Bronx.
Yeah,
My boss, but he's cool. He's a cool hip. He has culture. He used to go to the fun house, so he's a cool boss, right? He says, he's not fucking with me. You weren't in that. There was I never even see no dancing in Crocodile. I said, I'm going to show you the clip, and I found the clip, and it was me when I was super skinny, in the subway scene when she runs downstairs after Mick Dundee towards the end of the movie when he's leaving and she's running through Central Park, then running down 59th Street Columbus Circle, and then she runs past me, and I'm doing the moonwalk, a glide, and I'm grabbing the bucket, and I'm gliding across. So it's a fast scene, but you can tell it's me, and yeah, it's in Crocodile Dundee.
Oui.
So that's a pretty big one, because you can actually see a clip of me in it. And then there was a Beat Street Strut music video, but the song Beat Street Strut, which was not really popular, but it was on the Beat Street soundtrack. So kind of connected to Beat Street in that way. And it was also, what else was there? There's Rooftops, and there was All the Hitters did The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox.
Okay,
Now,
The Hard Way.
We did that, or that was the Hitters that did that, down in the middle of Times Square. And what else was The Hard Way? And then me and John and my boy Sam, who was also Sam was in Beast Street, we filmed, and this one I really regret. And this is when John was dealing with his demons. He had the music. And we filmed Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. And they went down there to 72nd Street to just film us. They took a day so we got a spot. Like the camera crew.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, the RVs and everything were there. But I went to go see the movie. Our bit wasn't in it. And our bit wasn't in it because they kept asking for the music. And John never sent the music. And I kept saying, well, let me get the music. And he wound up going to jail. And I was never able to get the music. Around that same time, and I was never able to get the music. And they wanted the music so they could match it up with the music and put it in there. Get it all, whatever, all the legalities of the music or whatever, and then match it up. And then so they had to cut the scene out. And I was like, that's like one of the biggest holiday movies with some of the biggest. I was like, I regret. And that was we were featured. That was a featured part. Like I said, they came out that day to film us. They had the RVs out there. They had the camera crew. The street area was closed off. Everything. And I was
the producers of Plane, Trains, and Automobiles have to have that footage.
Yes, I'd like to try to figure out how I can find it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good. That's a big hint for researchers out there. Somewhere to go. Any other celebrities you perform with?
Well, I worked for the Jacksons twice. I did the last big gig I did was the Michael Jackson Immortal World Tour. Cirque du Soleil. So I had a principal role. We were characters called the Fanatics.
All right.
So these 5 over-the-top Michael Jackson fans that kept popping out in the middle of the show. There were different versions of Michael Jackson, dressed up in stuff that Michael Jackson would have worn in public or in concerts. So I was basically the heavy scent because they said Michael Jackson, they wanted to show that Michael Jackson influenced and touched a lot of people and had a lot of fans. So they wanted me because I was big. And they put a beaded jacket on me and a hat, and they had me made up like Michael. So that was a principal role. And I don't know if you ever heard of the Les Twins, but they're very famous dancers. The Les Twins from France. They were 2 of the Fanatics. and then two, a Romanian dancer and a contemporary style Japanese dancer. So the five of us were over the top Michael Jackson fans, fanatics in Michael Jackson the Immortal World Tour. So that was the second time I worked for the Jacksons. It was Cirque du Soleil and the Jackson Estate. And then I did the Michael Jackson fashion show. And there's video of that when he had a clothing line. And we did that show. I believe that show was in, I don't remember what venue it was in, but me, Mr. Wiggles, Fable, Peaches, Steve Glavin, we call him All American. That was his name, Steve Glavin. We and Robbie from the Fantastic Duo. He was a hitter. He was a kid. He was the Fantastic Duo with the two little kids that were in the movie Beat Street.
Okay.
The two little black kids that were in the movie Beat Street at the audition scene. Robbie was one of them. So and he was in it. So we did a little routine together in that. So I worked with the Jacksons twice. As far as celebrities are concerned that I worked for on stage, we did Patti LaBelle. Who else? We did something with Patti LaBelle. We did something at the time. The earlier days. In my earlier days, I was with I was with a crew called B-Boys in Action, who turned out to be Boogie Down Productions. Scott LaRock. We were performing under BIA, B-Boys in Action. We were touring like that, and then the crew became Boogie Down Productions. So and the first time I met KRS-One was at a DJ competition where we all met Scott at a shelter. We all got in a van, and KRS-One got in the van, and he was like, "By the way, this is KRS-One. He's going to be emceeing at this event, this DJ competition we're going to in Harlem." So he introduced us to KRS-One. He was, I think Scott was his counselor, a social worker at the homeless shelter. And he said, and we're not going under BIA anymore. We're going under Boogie Down Productions. And we went to that competition, and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five were there, and also Cutmaster DC, who made Brooklyn's in the house. And he used to do tricks with a basketball, with the mixer, with the turntables, and Flash. And they had their dancer. They had a dancer named Larry Love, who was very famous. Back in the day, they even made a song. Grandmaster Flash made a song called Larry Love for him, which played on the radio a lot. And at that event, me and Larry Love battled to that song. And at the end of the battle, KRS-One got on stage with Scott LaRock and had the whole crowd screaming BDP, BDP, BDP. So it was confirmed that I smoked Larry Love in that building to his own song.
Sweet.
Yeah. And that was a pretty big deal. Because Larry Love was good, but he was limited. I had more. I outgassed him. I had more rounds.
Got it.
And he eventually just kind of like, this dude is whack. I don't want no more parts. He was saying, he's whack, man. This dude, I'm bigger than this guy. I'm out of here. He just got smoked. Yeah.
I never asked you, how did you get your name Clown?
Well, it was Boogie Down Klown. Everybody just thought, just like in today's world, everybody likes to do everything fast.
Right.
That's been happening for years because people didn't want to go, yo, Boogie Down Klown. Or just say, yo, Clown.
Yeah, they shortened Boogie Down Klown.
But it was Boogie Down Klown because I was from the Boogie Down Bronx and I electric boogie. So it all came together like, oh, it's cool, it's good. And I didn't actually want to call myself a clown. I just wanted Boogie Down Klown. That's dope. Right. And I got it because when I used to wear my Kango, sometimes my hair would stick out to the side a little bit. The Kango I had the plastic. You put the plastic inside the hat part right here of a Kango. You put plastic inside so it'd puff up a little bit and stay up instead of dropping. So, and my hair, and I sometimes sport the Jerry curl, the Jerry curl. That's funny as hell. I had the little jerry curls on the side, and then I had the laces that tie my pants, the bottom of my pants with the laces, and you could do different designs with those laces, different color laces. If you watch the movie That's Dancing, you'll see somebody turning on a boom box. That's my hand, and that's my leg with the sneakers on, and you'll see the laces
Holding your pants wrapped around your leg.
wrapped around my leg. So the bottom of it's almost like a skinny jean effect
Got
of
it.
today. The bottom was held in, and then the top was a little puffy. So because it was like, yo, that's kind of like a clown look. You know what I mean? Like,
All right.
kind of like a clown. You got like that kind of like a clown look, and they saw my personality. Cats like, yo, and you're funny, man. You should just call yourself clown, because I was thinking puppet, I was thinking Joker, I was thinking just different things, right? Because I had that entertainment in me, and that came from way back when I saw the Junior and them. They were entertainers. I said I wanted to become like an entertainer,
Right.
and Rerun was in me too, So I that's how I used to pop. So it was like, yo, Joker or clown or something. You know what I mean? I think Scooter or one of them said that. And I said, well, what about Boogie Down Klown? I'm a boogie boy. I live in the Boogie Down. What about Boogie? Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. That's dope. All right. Boogie Down Klown.
Awesome.
And then later on, people call me Clown. And then also, I wasn't able to afford or get one of those name buckles that said Boogie Down Klown. You had those name buckles. Actually, I wasn't even able to afford to get Clown until I started hitting. I was just able to get a K, and it wasn't chrome. It was brass. The cheap K was brass.
Right.
And it's hard to keep clean. Those name buckles, you get the chrome one, you were making money, and if you had your full name, you was getting paid. So there's a lot of reasons why it became Clown, but originally it was Boogie Down Klown.
All right. How let's you've got a great history. Have you been approached by, right now there are two that I know of standing museums, right? You got the National Hip Hop Museum,
Yeah.
the UK
Right.
Hip Hop Museum right now that are active. Have you
Yeah.
been approached about your history by any of them? What's your opinion about having a place to represent you guys? And hopefully soon we'll have that hip hop museum here in the Bronx, the hip hop museum, open up. What's your opinion?
Oh, it's great. It's great that that's happening. It's great that people are going to get immortalized, in a museum. Me, even though I got a lot of history, and I've been around the corner, and all that stuff, like one of the, Boogie Down Productions is a big rap group, and I can say that I was a member of Boogie Down Productions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The beginning.
Right, the beginning. So I can say that, and there's other stuff, but I'm still. I guess I'm not going to say I'm small fries, but I'm treated like small fries.
Got it.
I'm not. I mean, there's people that got. I think last year I watched a bunch of people get proclamations from the city or whatever, the state or whatever, and not one from me. And I was like, that's a surprise. I was surprised. I wasn't angry. I was just surprised. Like the people that are getting it, like, did I have to be there to get it, or could someone accept one for me? Did I pay enough dues, or am I not, as credible as everybody else? You know what I mean? So I kind of treat it like small fries. So I feel like I am in this community. Like I'm not Fable. I'm not Mr. Wiggles. I'm not crazy. And those guys did pay a lot of dues and inspire a lot of people. You know what I mean? So they deserve every ounce of accolades. And then you also have Quickstep and Rockefeller that been around for a long time and done some things to contribute to the movement, to the culture. And then a lot of hitters. I one thing I do I never forget the hitters. You know, I never forget the hitters. I never forget what they did for me and what I was going through at the time and how it taught me in life and how it taught me to become an entertainer and all the doors that it opened for me. That all started from hitting. That did not come from the neighborhoods or the community. The neighborhoods and the community, people like Scooter, Magic Mike, Boppo, Kid Freeze. I mean, Kid Freeze, Mr. Freeze's kid, Boppo. You know what I'm talking about. No, those people and Disco Junior, Chet, Shake, those people, I would never. I always give credit to that. I wouldn't have got a lot of things done or done a lot of things in my life if it wasn't for those people that were in my life at the time.
Awesome. Wow. You know, and this is the entire video answers this question, but how has popping and locking and boogieing changed your life?
Big time. Big time. Like, you know, I speak to parents. I work a regular 9 to 5 now. I am now a hardworking citizen of the United States of America. I punch in a clock. So, and I have a little puppy, you know, it's around here. So I've been going to the dog park, hanging out with people over there, regular everyday Joes that work 9 to 5s. And sometimes I don't even want to say what I did because I don't want them to feel bad because they work all their lives and if they get cruises. They sometimes can go on a cruise or take a little vacation, but they worked all their lives to become in their late 60s to get retirement and are not able to do what I did because they're too old or they got illnesses or whatever's going on. Even though their kids are out of their house and all that, they still can't do what I've done. I live backwards. I live like a retired man.
Yeah.
Early on, I traveled the world. I mean, I've been through 5 passports. You know what I mean? Because there was not enough room for visas. So, and I got to see and meet all types of celebrities and people and got to been through so many adventures and witnessed so many different things. A lot of them, a lot more good than bad, but there were bad times too. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't for that, and even still today, one day a week, I teach.
All right.
At this place here in Largo. And I've been doing it for about a little over 5 years. And when I started teaching, I said, I just want to, I don't care how many kids come through this, because some of them are not going to want to break. They're just doing it because their parents want them or give them something to do or they're curious. But if I can just get one, just one, create one little B-boy, then I'm very happy.
Wow.
If I can create one. And I have probably more than one, but I have one for sure that is deeply into it, starting to win little prizes, little trophies. You know what I mean? And he no longer works with me because I teach them the basics of breaking.
Right.
Because they like breaking they like breaking more than popping.
Right.
So I teach them their top rock, I teach them their squat, I teach them how to do their 6-step, I teach them their little CC and their toe taps, and then down into a freeze. And then once a month I'll get somebody that can actually physically get down there and do it. So whatever I was teaching them, if they don't have it perfect, right? Because I can't really physically get down there and do a freeze or do a CC or a 6-step, then they're already ready. Within the first half hour, when I have that instructor there, they fix all the stuff. And then I do that again. And so I have one that I couldn't take him further because I couldn't physically get him out there, and my instructor stopped coming for a while. So his mom, because he really wants it. So his mom did a little research. He asked me about a guy. What, do you know him? What do you think about him? I said, he's good. He's dope. You know what I mean? And he could probably take your son to the next level. And now he's going to that class. And this kid is basically a little monster. He came up with the name by himself. I said, "You want me to give you a name, or do you want to come up with it?" And he came back a few days later. I want to be called Monster. And he's still advanced beginner, so he's not doing. He has a backspin, a really really good backspin, and that's the furthest. He's not doing windmills or head spins, but he's got all of this. Top rock is really dope. Everything is the attitude, the b-boy attitude, his posture, the way he puts his hands on his head, and the whole attitude. He's a b-boy. He's a monster, and he's coming up. And I'm like, all right, he's not in my school anymore, but I put that one out there. I created that little monster, right?
Yes, you did. Awesome.
That's the one I wanted. That was it. Now, hopefully, he'll go further, and then I got a couple more that are interested. I got another one. His name is Ruben, and he really it's not only the kid. It also has to be the parent. So the parent has to be willing to go far, with the kid and do whatever it takes. And Monster's mom is there. You know what I mean? So Ruben is the same way. And his mom is really strong because she lost her husband. And she has a kid that's in a wheelchair that she has to take care of. And then she's bringing him to practice every Wednesday and to events that we do. But the kid really wants it. He looks like he really wants it. So I'm creating another monster. But this one, now I have Kid Nice from the New York City Breakers with me every week.
Nice. Does he live in Florida too?
Yeah, he lives 5 minutes away from me.
Nice. All right, great.
So he comes every week, every Wednesday. And what he does is he takes the advanced beginners to one side, and I take the beginners to the other side. I get them ready, and then when they're ready, I battle them. I make them battle one of the advanced beginners. If they do well, then they become an advanced beginner.
Wasn't his son? Did his son make it through the Olympic trials? Am I mistaken?
No. You're talking about Kid Glide.
All right.
From Dynamic. Kid Nice is Noel from New York City Breakers. It's the leader of New York City Breakers. He's the one that said, "Clown, you are a New York City Breaker now." I said, "I know. I got to clear that with London. I thought London was the boss." He was like, "Nah, I'm the leader." And then he got up on the phone. He said, "Clown is the New York City Breaker." He said, "There you go. Now we got what do you call it? We got I don't know what London said, but he was gonna do something to I don't know what they do. They don't do nothing, but we got to prank them in or some crazy shit like that.
Some ceremony or something.
Yeah, we got to get them in there. We got to do something. We got to make them do 10, 20 push-ups.
a breaking Apache line.
Yeah, some shit like that. But no, he was just joking. But yeah, so London is good. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm a New York City Breaker. But my crew that I was down with from the 90s, besides the Magic Motion crew, is Skill Methods. Skill Methods is probably the most dangerous breaking crew from the 90s. We have Cloud, we have Technique, we have Abstract, we have Flea, we have Luigi, we have what do you call it? What's his name? From Incredible Breakers, but he's down with Skill Methods now. Josh from the son, I think he's the nephew of the Incredible Breakers. He got down with Skill Methods. So Skill Methods,
Incredible Josh, right?
Yeah, I think Skill Methods got down with Skill Methods, Incredible Josh. So we have some of they're starting to slow down now because they're getting older. But these guys were all like in the movie Step Up. They got main parts in the movie Step Up, and You Got Served, and the dopest crew, I believe, from the 90s, but definitely the dopest crew coming out of Florida besides Street Masters. Because Street Masters are strong too from Miami.
Yeah. And let's
and they put me down with the crew because I was the one in the 90s when I moved, when I came down to Florida, I came down to stay with my mom. She was on her last days, and I wanted to make sure she was okay. So I put my touring and everything on hiatus. And while I was down here, I wanted to make this place my home. I was like, we need b-boying down here. And there was b-boying, but it was very small. And we need hitters down here. So I started creating a little hitting crew, and I created a spot where b-boys could come and practice every week, a couple times a week, a center, and pull together all the members of Skill Methods because they were all separated. They all became one big crew and created Skill Methods. So when they did their first 5th anniversary or 10th anniversary, I think it was, they asked me to come and they gave me a shirt and they said, Klown, you're the one. You're the magnet. You brought us together. You're Skill Methods. So I always represent Skill Methods. Obviously, I'm an ESP breaker now too. So I got 2 crews that I could say I'm part of.
Awesome.
And then I'm always connected to the hitters. The hitters are the ones that gave me that platform.
Beautiful, beautiful. Boogie Down Klown, we like to end all of our interviews with one last question.
Yeah.
What does the Bronx mean to you?
Bronx is everything. I am the Bronx, man. It made me. It's who I am. Even though I lived in a fairly nice part of the Bronx as a child, right? I did as a preteen into teen, and then into a young man, well, into a man. I was in the South Bronx. I was in Apache. I was in the trenches, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from being, in that life, both lives. You know what I mean? In both lives, I can mingle and hang out with anybody, any race, any stature in life. I may not be the smartest person. I may not have the best vocabulary. I may not be the most articulate person to speak to, but I could still hang out and talk to a doctor, a judge, a lawyer, and hang out. I've done it before. I can go to the hood and interact with the hood and be good. And they know that I'm from the hood. They know that he's from the trenches. He's not fake. I don't portray myself as a gangster. I can't fight for shit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? My brother was a boxer. Maybe showed me a couple of jabs or 2, but I don't know much about fighting. I can't stab a person or shoot a person or take a bat to a person. I can't. I'm not gangster like that. But I know how to carry myself, and I'm not afraid to defend myself. You know what I mean? And if you carry yourself in certain environments, you'll be accepted, whether it's a professional environment or it's in the hood. If you carry yourself right, you'll be all right. And so the Bronx taught me that. The Bronx taught me all that. Being in a nice part of the Bronx, because I lived in a nice part of the Bronx, because I lived in amongst, how would Dave Chappelle say it, amongst the whites? Because I lived amongst the whites, and the music that I heard over there, soft rock, that type of stuff. Before I was listening to disco, before I was listening to rap or all that, or breakbeat, I was listening to disco and soft rock and rock and roll. So I'm aware, and jazz, So I'm able to interact with people, all types of people, with all types of backgrounds, because of what I learned, the people I were around in the Bronx. You know what I mean? I used to hang out in a cigar shop on Throgs Neck. I lived in Throgs Neck for a while. When I started making some moolah, going on tour, I had an apartment in Throgs Neck, and Throgs Neck is a nice neighborhood. And I used to hang out in a cigar shop there, and they were retired. The guy that owned the cigar shop was a retired lawyer. His friends were retired lawyers, and they were also musicians. They had a piano. One would come and play the sax. I would bring my harmonica because I learned how I could play harmonica. Bring my harmonica. We'd play and we'd smoke cigars and we'll talk. and 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 they didn't give a shit if I cursed a little bit or if I got a little bit hood, because they wanted me to speak naturally and be myself. So, you know what I mean, and not try to be something that I'm not. And and so I learned everything from the Bronx. It's in me. I can't go nowhere.
Awesome.
It's in me forever.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of it. I'm proud that it's from that hip hop was born where I come from.
Right.
The birthplace, and that I saw it. I saw it happen. I grew with. I was while it was being born, I was being born into it. I was growing with it, seeing it happen.
Yeah.
I'm very, very proud of that. A lot of the new generation b-boys and these new generation jams, I don't think they understand how we feel inside when we go to these jams, because they're not at our age yet where they're going to be like, try to remember how things used to be for them. And they still, in any form, in any fashion, you still want to be a part of it. Even if it's just coming into a place that people go, yo, what's the name from is in the house, the legend. That feels great. And they just made you part of this big ass jam. Now everybody in the jam knows who you are. It's not that you want to the attention, but you want to be a part of something that you feel like you are a part of creating. Because I was a part of creating that. You were a part of creating it. You know what I mean? I always compare, I don't want to keep on, but I always compare when people say hip hop is 50 years old, right? And we talk about the dance, which is probably late 40s, right? We could say late 40s. I always compare it to ballet. Ballet, if you look up ballet, it's 500 years old. And with ballet, there's a whole culture. There's music. There's music. There's a whole culture attached to ballet, and it's 500 years old. So when I compare ballet to hip hop and hip hop dances like ours, we are still, every one of us are still pioneers. You're still pioneers for the first maybe 50 to 100 years when you compare it to ballet. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The first 100 years, those are all still pioneers. It's not going to be until hip hop is 200, 300 years old. We probably be gone. We'll definitely be gone. But if it's still around, the pioneers of me and you and the people that were down with it for the first 50 to 100 years are the pioneers.
Definitely. Definitely. Awesome. Boogie Down Klown for the Bronx Hip Hop Oral History.
Word.
Peace, my brother.
Still Methods, New York City Breakers.
All right.
All right, man.